Yeah.
In most of the arts, the labels are actually helpful to rebel against as well. It's as important to fit in as well as it is to fight against, and they're helpful that way. I mean, just try to call something contemporary in here, and then everybody's trying to argue whether or not it's contemporary. It's a reference point.
Once you have a reference point, you have a perspective on where you are in relation to it, and whether you want to be opposed, for, near. So
reacting to it one way or another.
Exactly, it is a reaction.
Sorry. This is by Taryn Simon, who I think is one of the most amazing photographers right now working, and I respect her a lot also because she's a woman, and I think she's a very brave woman. And her work is all about giving access, I think. This is from a body of work called The Innocents, where these are portraits of men who were on death row until through DNA testing they were proven innocent for the crime that they were doing time for. And she took them back to the location in which the crime that they never committed but they did time for and were on death row, and had them reenact part of the scene or relate to this space that a jury said they committed a crime in and they had never been in before. And I find the work and the history of the work and her interaction again with these complete strangers and taking them to this place and making them connect is really powerful, and I really respect that. Her new body of work is called An American Index of the Hidden and Unfamiliar, and it's amazing. You should look at it.
Now, if I hadn't known that information, that image would not have as much as meaning to me. Now that I understand the intent behind the photographer's goal on this, completely different relation for me.
But the concept is in a lot of conceptual work, the concept is as much the art as the art itself. I mean, and in a lot of contemporary art, not even photography, people even argue, well, do you even need to make a visual object? Is it just the idea? And I think that's an interesting conversation, but, you know, I think concept and intent is completely important. And it's not just about making something that's beautiful or appeasing, it's about making people, challenging people to think about something.
This is a pretty good example where the viewer is richly rewarded for knowing something about the context. I agree with what you were saying earlier, but this is a really good example of that. I think the picture is a great media or a vehicle for those ideas.
So some images can have more meaning on the intent than the image itself, or the meaning ends up enhancing
We got to know
the
the
image.
body of work. And it helps to
The image
Right.
only exists because of the meaning.
Right.
Because of the concept.
If we all agree that contemporary photography is now, and some of us agree that it's the aesthetic or the intent or the concept behind it, can we get a basic idea of what some of the 3 or 4 main aesthetics are in contemporary photography?
There are no aesthetics. I'm not. Well, how are you defining aesthetics?
Well, you know, you've got people trying to show who people are or
Identity. Who people are or their identity might be one. I see a lot of photographs like that. They're trying to describe.
Concepts.
That is a concept, but you're trying to show what a person is rather than how they look.
I don't know, that's a good question. I think what Bill said was actually really good about reflecting, what was his statement? Let me read it really quick. It's how the images relate to the human condition and our time, our place that define the word contemporary. I mean, and then how you define that idea of human condition, or I don't know, I think what Brian said about globalism, that's a hot topic, I don't know.
It's probably easier to define what it isn't rather than what it is, and it still comes down to a personal interpretation. It's time, but yet how much time?
I basically have a question, and it's going to sound very blunt, but
Lay it on us.
my question is going to sound a little bit blunt, but one of the aspects that I consider about contemporary photography and now is that it is now, and there have been a lot of things that lead up to or influence contemporary photography that are shown here tonight, but I haven't seen too many yet that have been in the 21st century. I think 2 of the photographs from the 21st century, we're talking 2000 to now.
One,
Three.
2, 3. The D'Amato was 90s.
So, yeah, I guess actually there's
4,
more.
5. The Paul Catanigro is now.
I guess what I'm saying is that my argument would be something within a decade is now. I think when Saul Leiter took his photographs, they were contemporary in the now. It wasn't doing something that was traditional before the 50s. It was contemporary. And I think everything can be true for every said decade from there on in. But that being said, I would like to see more photographs that are 1998, 2008, you know what I'm saying?
Recent contemporary.
Because we're getting near the end of this, I want to throw in a couple more things. One of the beauties of living in this age is we can look back on enough movements in art and photography and painting and other things to realize that the movements themselves don't matter a whole lot. You can look at just about any of them and find brilliant work and work that moves you. And one of the things among the many dynamics that affect what becomes contemporary and current, besides the artist's own passions, are some rather mundane things, like what curators want to write about that's new and different, and young people wanting their PhDs in art history, they need to write about something that hasn't been written about. So that's one of the reasons that Chinese photography becomes off the run in America, because there's a whole bunch of new names and faces and things to write about, and if you're first on the list, it helps you as a critic or as a curator or as a PhD candidate, and has nothing. A large part of that has nothing to do with the basic quality of the work.
Counterpoint. I guess it's important to question the role of a curator and to question the role of gallery owner and how they do set standards and whatnot. But I think it's important to think about what they value and what they think is actually communicating something of interest and beyond the normal experience, and how is that work really being successful?
To some extent, that's groupthink, though.
Yeah, but
there's an element of that.
There's something also about I'm not okay.
Something to keep in mind, it's only within our generation that photography was even considered an art. It's a very young medium, still evolving, still being labeled, still going somewhere. Pardon me?
Yeah, that's not quite true.
Yeah, that's not
For
true.
Alfred Stieglitz, both his own work and his showing of other people's work, Ansel Adams, Edward Weston, and so on and so forth, probably pretty much broke the barrier. Although it has taken considerable time, and there are still a few little pockets of resistance out there, but by and large, at least since the 50s, I think it was in the 50s, early 60s, there was a huge exhibition at the Museum of Modern Art. If I had to date it, that would be as far back as Stieglitz. But when Stieglitz was studying, he studied in Germany at first, and he came up with an image. I don't remember which one it was, and it doesn't really matter. But he showed it to one of his professors, and he said that it was a wonderful image, and that if it was a painting, it would be art.
Please make sure you fill out that last sheet. Give us some feedback, some ideas. Anything is appreciated. I think we're good.
Who did this image?
Who sent this info on this one? You sent?
No one else can tell you what's going on.
It's a Polish photographer, and she does totally film, and it's all stuff that she's done in the past 10, 20 years or so. And she doesn't do Photoshop, she doesn't do anything digital, and she does a lot of these portraits like this. So I thought it was amazing because there's no manipulation to it.
Thank you, everybody. I guess we're ready for a schmooze.
Thank you for